The story of the U.S. diplomatic cables leak begins with a broader context of transparency, whistleblowing, and digital information. In the early 2000s, global politics were increasingly interconnected, and sensitive diplomatic communications were transmitted electronically between U.S. embassies and the State Department in Washington, D.C. These communications included assessments of foreign governments, confidential opinions on political leaders, and intelligence on sensitive international negotiations. While meant to remain classified, the sheer volume and sensitivity of these cables made them a potent source for anyone with access to classified materials. The individual at the center of the leak was U.S. Army intelligence analyst Chelsea Manning. Stationed in Iraq, Manning had access to classified databases, including diplomatic cables, war logs, and other sensitive military information. Driven by a belief that the public had the right to know about the conduct of U.S. foreign policy and military operations, Manning began downloading vast amounts of material. Over several months, Manning collected hundreds of thousands of documents, including diplomatic cables spanning decades of American foreign policy. The method of leak involved careful digital exfiltration. Manning used encrypted channels to communicate with WikiLeaks, an organization founded in 2006 by Julian Assange with the mission of publishing classified and censored information from anonymous sources. WikiLeaks had already gained attention for prior releases, but the diplomatic cables, which would become known as Cablegate, represented an unprecedented volume of U.S. government communications. The leak involved tens of thousands of cables dating from the 1960s to 2010, though most focused on contemporary international politics, including the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, nuclear negotiations, and the U.S.'s global diplomatic stance. WikiLeaks meticulously reviewed the documents, redacting sensitive information to protect sources and individuals at risk, though critics later argued that some redactions were insufficient. The organization also faced intense scrutiny from governments and media alike, with accusations of endangering national security, diplomatic relations, and personnel abroad. Despite this, WikiLeaks proceeded with its plan to release the documents, beginning on November 28, 2010, in partnership with major news organizations including The New York Times, The Guardian, and Der Spiegel. The leak immediately shook the global political landscape. Diplomatic cables revealed candid assessments of world leaders, internal discussions on controversial policies, and covert operations previously unknown to the public. Countries such as Germany, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan were prominently featured, exposing the private opinions of U.S. diplomats. Leaders were caught in politically sensitive situations, ranging from criticism of allies to revealing U.S. pressure on other gov. The publication of the U.S. diplomatic cables had an immediate and far-reaching impact on international relations. Governments scrambled to manage the fallout. Some states, angered by candid assessments made by U.S. diplomats, demanded explanations or lodged formal complaints. The leak strained relations between the United States and several key allies, who were uncomfortable with private diplomatic assessments becoming public. Conversely, the leak was celebrated by activists, journalists, and transparency advocates who argued that it exposed hidden practices and highlighted the need for government accountability. One of the most significant consequences of Cablegate was the shift in public discourse regarding U.S. foreign policy. The documents revealed that U.S. diplomacy often involved behind-the-scenes maneuvers, including lobbying for trade advantages, influencing elections, and coordinating intelligence operations. While some information confirmed suspicions about government conduct, other revelations were shocking even to seasoned political observers. These disclosures prompted debates in parliaments, academic institutions, and public forums worldwide about ethical diplomacy, accountability, and the balance between national security and transparency. The leak also had personal consequences for Chelsea Manning, who was arrested in May 2010, before the full public release of the cables. Manning faced charges under the Espionage Act, among other laws, and was eventually sentenced to 35 years in prison, though the sentence was commuted by President Obama in 2017. Julian Assange, founder of WikiLeaks, became a global symbol of both radical transparency and controversial journalism. He faced legal challenges, asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, and international debates on freedom of the press versus national security. Cybersecurity and information management in governments became another major area of focus post-leak. The U.S. government undertook extensive reviews of digital infrastructure, security protocols, and classified material access. There was a heightened awareness of insider threats and the potential of whistleblowers or hackers to expose sensitive data. The case also demonstrated the influence of digital media in shaping global narratives and forcing governments to respond quickly to information that would previously have been tightly controlled. Cablegate further influenced journalism by establishing a model for collaboration between media outlets and whistleblowers. WikiLeaks' partnership with major newspapers demonstrated that large-scale document leaks could be responsibly published and contextualized for public understanding. However, the ethical dilemmas of exposing private communications, potential endangerment of sources, and selective redactions remained hotly debated. This led to new protocols in investigative reporting, balancing public interest with potential harm, and an understanding that transparency in Gov. The long-term impact of a U.S. diplomatic cables leak continues to resonate over a decade later. In terms of diplomacy, many countries became more cautious about the language used in confidential communications, knowing that leaks could become public. Some nations adjusted their security measures and reconsidered how intelligence and diplomatic information was stored, transmitted, and shared. Internally, U.S. diplomats and foreign service officers were trained to be more aware of the potential for leaks, changing the culture of internal reporting and communication. The leak also contributed to broader discussions about the ethics of whistleblowing, digital rights, and government accountability. Manning and Assange became polarizing figures, hailed by some as champions of transparency, and condemned by others as reckless actors who jeopardized national security. These debates influenced policies on whistleblower protections, press freedom, and the prosecution of individuals who disclose classified information. Many governments around the world tightened laws concerning classified information, cyber access, and unauthorized disclosures as a direct response to the scale of the leak. Culturally, Cablegate became emblematic of the tension between state secrecy and the public's right to know. It inspired documentaries, books, academic research, and political commentary analyzing the complexities of global diplomacy, intelligence operations, and the ethics of leaking. The revelations reshaped public understanding of U.S. foreign policy and encouraged a more skeptical view of official narratives, prompting citizens and journalists to question government transparency and accountability more vigorously. Technologically, the leak demonstrated the power of digital tools in disseminating information and the vulnerabilities inherent in interconnected networks. WikiLeaks' use of encrypted communication, secure submission platforms, and collaboration with global media highlighted both the potential for radical transparency and the challenges of controlling information in the digital age. Governments and private entities alike reassessed cybersecurity priorities, recognizing that information could no longer be confined to traditional channels. Ultimately, the WikiLeaks U.S. diplomatic cables leak was a watershed moment in 21st-century information politics. It revealed the hidden realities of global diplomacy, provoked international debate, and changed the way governments, media, and the public interact with information. Its legacy continues to influence discussions on transparency, ethics, and the balance between security and the public's right to know, marking it as one of the most significant leaks in modern history.